Good evening, I'm Mr. Secretary Nicole Gonzalez. It is Tuesday, February 2nd, 2016, and this is a regular meeting of the Dublin Standard Living Services District Board of Directors. Presiding this evening is President Pat Howard.
Welcome. Would you please join me in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Director Michelin,
Here.
Director Forte,
Here.
Director Juanita Leopold,
Here.
Vice President Elkett,
I'm here.
President Howard.
Here, thank you. Let's see, we have special announcements.
President Howard, board members, a couple of items on the list. Tri-Valley Water Policy Roundtable is scheduled for February 11th. Your calendar. March 9th is also the Aqua Legislative Symposium. We're asking if any board members would like to attend. We will have staff in attendance that day in Sacramento. So coordinate with Mr. McIntyre if you're interested in attending that. And maybe just another note, March 18th will be deadlines for our Form 700s. It's that time of year that we all get to fill out all our little paperwork. And if you have any questions in the process, contact my office or Nicole's. I help everybody through it, but many of you have done this many times before. So, and we also have a new employee to welcome. So Judy.
Yes, so we have Robin Mutovi as our newest associate civil engineer. She is an alumnus of Dublin High School and is a current Dublin resident. She has a bachelor's degree and master's degree from Cal. She has 25 years of experience.
Go Bears!
25 years of experience in structural engineering, planning, and hydraulics. The last 8 years she has been with the East Bay Municipal Utility District. And she's currently working on the commissioning of the Field Operations Division's facility on Commerce Circle, on the Derwa expansion project, and on some planning for Reservoir 20B, which we'll be building here in the next 2 or 3 years. So those are her early projects. So Robin's been with us for about 2 months now.
I just wanted to say thank you. Thanks to Dan and Judy for bringing me in. It's been a fun 2 months, and I'm looking forward to many years here.
Awesome. Welcome.
It's always great to have a Dublin High alumni.
Okay, let's see, any other special announcements?
No other special announcements.
Okay, public comment. This is an opportunity for anybody who's not affiliated with the district. I see no volunteers, so we'll move on to reports.
President Howard, board members, there's one thing, if Sue has taken you or shown you the lobby, we're attempting to do a little cleanup and update outside. Sue's got a mock-up and invites you to go outside after the meeting or on your way in at one point and take a look. We've had some fun challenges along the way. I challenged staff to maybe get started before we did our full recruiting for a new GM, so they didn't feel like they were walking into a time capsule. But we also found out we had leaks and we had some growths around a water faucet out there. So we've had our challenges along the way, but we're going to continue our way through and update. As you notice, tonight's meeting is rather brief, but just for your own maybe mental planning for the next meeting, we will be talking about the drought, so we have a few more items scheduled on that agenda. Just by way of, we've had some water, and our council was diligently looking through data that we find on drought, but I had also prepared with some notes. So Warville's crept up to 67% of its capacity. As Carl mentioned, it's at the levels of 76, 77. So we're back to the level of the worst drought in state history. But if you do notice that it is on its way up, and the rain and the snow targets are doing fairly well right now. So that's the good news. For those that weren't at Aqua, The Aqua newsletter was in my mailbox today, and if you pick it up and look at it, our picture is inside, and we received Sue's Bullhauser Mist and Blue Award while we were down at the conference there. So, and we had a good meeting yesterday with City of Pleasanton. I think a special thanks. Board members will give you their report on it, but special thanks to Dan McIntyre for coordinating that and pulling it off. And only yours truly went to the wrong location.
Me too. I went to City Hall before I get there.
And that's all I have.
Okay. See, agenda management, I don't think we need any. See, committee reports. Anybody?
Do you want a brief verbal from yesterday's meeting?
That would be good. Would be good.
So, just a one-on-one between DSRSD and Pleasanton. Council members Penton and Brown were there, as was, the equivalent Pleasanton staff to our staff. We had at their, what do they call that place? Their facilities operations center, kind of.
Operations center.
Yeah, Milliard meeting, conference room. Yeah.
Somebody I've never heard of.
Yeah. Really, three things. They described their current recycled water project, which is good. They're retrofitting existing neighborhoods, and we know how hard that can be. The takeaway there was they're very thankful for the cooperation and the way that we're working together. They really, as we continue over the last couple of years to turn a corner with Pleasanton, they were quite effusive in their compliments. We kind of briefed them on some of this Bay Area biosolids, energy conversion stuff we're working on. They weren't not supportive, maybe a little skeptical because it's brand new technology, and I don't blame them. Putting any kind of industrial device in kind of the middle of their, well, not middle of it, but in their city, so I didn't get a lack of support, but they want to know more about that. Yeah. Then we spent some time on the Zone 7, the upcoming water supply outlook support document, and I continue to feel that a desire for them to be involved in IPR and being more creative on water supply.
Yeah, I totally agree. They did definitely, their city manager and Jerry, I withhold my thoughts about where Carla might be because she's got a pretty good poker face. But other than that, one thing kind of bothered me, and that is the fact that they were adamant about being involved in the Bay Area to biosolid, and like Rich said, you can kind of understand that, but it was more demanding than normal. So hopefully they won't be the ones to put a monkey wrench in. I would think not. Their city just joined as the 19th organization to be part of this, so I'm sure their staff will do some influencing them on whether or not the technology is working. But other than that, it was a great meeting. It was more of an update on everything under the sun, and very little contention on anything. It was more of, nod your head and go along. We did agree to do some things with the Lund Ranch. I'm taking John's word for it that we're covered because we let them off the hook
A little bit.
a lot. But I'm sure John will explain that later on. Anyway, other than that, it was a great meeting.
Okay, that was committee reports. Next is approval of minutes. This is for the special meeting of January 18th. Approval, a move and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. So that carries. And the next item is consent calendars, item 8A and B. Anyone wish to pull any of these?
Oh, there's about the consent calendar, A through B.
B.
A and B. I'll second.
Yeah, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. That carries. And we go on to board business, item 9A, review and discuss drought management program.
President Howard, board members, this is our standing item to allow public comment on the drought and its condition. President won't make that comment, so that's what is there.
Please, ongoing. Okay, item 9B, construction contract.
Okay, this is the award of the construction contract to install the 6th filter. As a reminder, back in November, the board approved the purchase of the equipment, and this is the purchase contract. And this is being done under an emergency declaration. So the state's emergency declaration, an emergency declaration by DERWA, and the emergency declaration by DSRSD. This is actually a project that's needed to provide enough recycled water supply to serve Pleasanton. And actually, this project, both the previous purchase of the equipment and this installation contract are being paid for by the city of Pleasanton. And the reason for doing this under an emergency is so we can get the 6th sand filter in place before the high season this summer. Because it is being done at the request of DERWA under emergency resolution under state law, a 4/5 vote is required to approve the award of this contract. It is a sole source with our on-call construction firm at the plant over, and the amount is $256,000.
Okay, anybody have?
Oh, I will move to award the agreement.
I'm just curious, I've been here 3 years now, and I think all of our, how long is the on-call contract for over?
Typically, we do on-call contracts for 2 or 3 years, and I think we just awarded this contract with over, I think it's going to expire sometime later this year, so we'll have to go out again to have an on-call contract.
And we go out, and so is it.
Yeah, we do. And earlier, and actually last year, we went out to bid for our field operations contractors to do the water main repairs, the sewer repairs out in the street. We'll have to go out to bid again for contract work at the plant, for on-call work at the plant.
Yeah, that's good. No, they're a good firm. I can think of 3 firms that are in Alameda County that are closer than Richmond. I mean, including Livermore, Dublin, and San Ramon. We'd like to see them submit a proposal, but that's fine. That's the only question I have.
Quick question from me. We do this with the cost box sometimes. So the cost is to the district's not really $256,000 because Pleasanton's funding this thing entirely.
City of Pleasanton entirely.
All right, I just wanted to get that out there to the video and the record.
And in fact, the City of Pleasanton has already submitted a check to the board. If you recall back in September.
I think we saw that check. Didn't you bring it here?
They did. Big surprise check. We got a photo of the check.
Good motion.
And we have a motion
I'll
that's,
move to approve it.
well, we have 2 motions to approve.
What do you say?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? That passes unanimously. And we move on to item 9C.
This should be very simple. So the strategic plan you adopted last year, basically we did a giant edit to get it down into the groupings for the new committee structure, should it need to be required to go before committee. And I have added one item in light of the comments I made a couple of weeks ago about the potential turnover of staff, that one, we should have a very specific goal of hire and train replacement staff in a timely manner. We are operating that way, but I thought it would be best if it were in there and not buried under other things. So if you agree, then I think it calls for a resolution to be adopted as changed.
Sounds
Unless there's any questions.
I'll move approval of the item.
I'll second.
Any questions, comments? No? Just
To include the addition, right?
Yeah.
It's part of it.
Okay, so all of those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, that passes. And let's see, we move on to board member items. So who wants to start?
I'll start. I attended a CCSDA meeting on Monday, January 25th. You recall that our last special meeting that you authorized me to run for the office of Director at Large and to also be allowed to be the voting member for the district. It was an interesting meeting in that after the minutes were approved, the discussion came up about the election of officers. And since the vice president and president were running unopposed, they had to have a special motion for the bylaws. So they said, because there was not a quorum present. So they said that they could do this. And so they voted, and the president and vice president were seated. Then Mr. McGill withdrew his nomination from his candidacy for director at large because he plans on running for some state offices, I think with LAFCO and some other positions. So that left me as the only candidate, and they used the same process to authorize a vote, and I was elected director at large. We also had a presentation on reclamation districts. So I found it pretty interesting in that there's 157 districts in 16 counties, and we have a lot of them here around the Delta area. They don't have a lot of money, as we all know, but they depend on taxes, assessments, warrants, and federal and state grants. But because so many of them are very small, they haven't faced much scrutiny in the past. Now with the impact that the drought has had on our water supply, they are under the microscope quite a bit more. The last item I wanted to mention was that Bert gave a very thorough financial report on the Treasury, and although it's not a lot of money, it's $8,000. He was a little surprised to find, and reported to the association, he could find no record that they've ever filed any taxes whatsoever, or any tax return. So, needless to say, a committee was formed rather rapidly to investigate that and make sure that all is square with the IRS. Other than that, and our next meeting is in April.
I attended my first water agencies conference, January 20th to 22nd. It was CASA, and it was hugely interesting and informative for me. It was just a whole new world. I participated in 2 roundtable discussions. One, strategies for recruiting a GM, and establishing and communicating benefits of recycled water to the rate-paying public. For me, a major takeaway from the main session at CASA was the speaker suggested we look into how Las Vegas is managing their limited water resources. And one of the ways, in order for the Bellagio Hotel to be built, Wynn Properties enforced, not only suggested, but enforced, that all pretty stuff, the fountains, anything decorative or additional landscaping, plants, everything, they had to use recycled water. They're not allowed to use potable water at all. And also in the roundtable for recycled water information, it was suggested, and I did look this up, is the Aquapola project. It was announced at a meeting in Texas. I've gone over to a meeting in Texas that's taking place in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And I do have it's super interesting. I have the projects saved on my laptop. Anybody that would like to have a copy of it, I will just shoot you the attachment. And I'd like to keep it brief, so that will be my report on my first CASA conference.
First conference.
First conference. It was good, get my feet wet for something down the road.
Okay, Georgie?
I also attended the CASA symposium. In addition, I attended the CASA board meeting, and I'll go into that first because that actually started out the days for me. Basically, they finished up the business plan, and they also released the strategic plan along with the new CASA logo. Sue probably understands this. It doesn't make sense to me, but this is crisper and
Scale up.
more modern and,
They can shrink down small.
okay, it's all the same to me, but it was very important to the board members, so. But this is also the first printed strategic plan that the board's ever had. And it talks about one of the first areas of concentration is succession planning, because at the CASA staff level, we have some issues coming up because everybody's bumping into that magic age of whatever it is these days, 55, 60, somewhere in there. So that was brought up. We also appointed the new nominating committee because board members are elected again. 3 rotating board members are elected again in August, and this should finally smooth things out with the board change so that now every year you'll have 3 coming up for re-election. And you know, it's got like, I don't know, 17 members, I believe is what it is off the top of my head. Let's see. Oh, and then, yeah, we talked about the Operator Certification Advisory Committee to which Levi has been appointed. And they were unaware of his Bay Area CWEA, is that what it is?
Mock-we.
No, the one where he was...
Supervisor of the year.
Oh, Supervisor of the Year, yes.
Yeah, they were unaware of that, so I had brought the press notice that Sue's office printed so that we could show everybody, so, you know, it was a slam dunk for Levi. Which is good. It's, you know, it's obviously, we all know that's really proud to have one of our employees holding these statewide positions. Then I went to the CASA meetings. The first day of CASA meeting was the roundtables. Unfortunately, as much as everybody loves the hotel we go to because it's back in downtown Palm Springs and close to things, it does not have the extra rooms for the roundtables. So we had 2 ballrooms with 10 or 12 round tables in them. And so it made for a very, very noisy discussion, but I enjoyed it very much. I went to one about preparing yourself for going to Washington, D.C., and the second was using biosolids to treat all of the land that's been made virtually barren by fires, which was really interesting because Greg Hester headed ours, and he's the biosolids spokesperson for CASA, and somebody came in who lives in the area around Napa where the big fires were in Clear Lake, and they ran the whole meeting as to what was happening and who was doing it, and it was really fascinating. It's happening right now, and it's happening all over the state, and it really does help the slide possibility, the mudslide possibility from the fire-ravaged land. And additionally, when it's biosolids put on, it introduces the nutrients back to the land, so it makes the land more fertile again rather than having all the ash and all that on it. Anyway, that was really fascinating. I know it doesn't affect us directly. On the other hand, maybe that's where we'll end up putting our biosolids as California keeps having wildfires. Let's see. The rest of the meeting, the next day of the meeting was 2 speakers, and I have to say one of them was pretty technical, so it was difficult for Maddie and I to follow. Probably you understood more of it than we did, but one of the problems was everybody panicked on Thursday about the snowstorm, so everybody took off early, and so the guy who was supposed to give the speech left, but he left the whole speech so that Ed McCormick from East Bay Mud could read it. Now, we all know that doesn't work all the time, and it's not Ed's fault, obviously. I mean, he had about 15 minutes to be prepped on what he was going to say, and the rest of it was written out. So that was a little indifferent. I have to give them all sorts of accolades, though, for trying to replace him. I mean, that was pretty amazing. I think that's about it for me, other than the meeting yesterday, which we already went over.
Rich, anything?
No, I spoke earlier.
All right, well, let's see, I too went to the CASA conference. Don't have a whole lot to add. That's one thing nice about being last, unless you like this. But yeah, I did agree with Matty about the keynote speaker. He's a professor from the University of Arizona, and talked about how Las Vegas was going to recycling water. It was pretty good. Another point he made was about California agriculture, kind of a debate as to what fraction of California's water goes to agriculture. You know, there's the 80% goes to agriculture, and another guy raises his hand and says, no, it's only 40% of managed water. So,
Whatever that means.
Whatever that means. I don't know what, they get it out of the well at the farm, is that managed? I don't know. But anyway, he made some very good points. But one of his main points was whether it's 80% or 40%, regardless, it's a lot of water, and if they can just make a slight improvement for the benefit of, cities, that's a lot of water. And so he says, well, maybe what we ought to do is let the cities pay for it. So all these farmers could have like drip irrigation and that sort of thing. And the cities would be the benefit, so they could pay for it. I don't know how that would work, some sort of a tax maybe, I don't know. But anyway, that was I thought was a pretty interesting point. Because a 5% reduction in agricultural water would be like, I don't know, 50% more for the cities, or some crazy. If you do the math, I didn't really check them on that. But anyway, it was a good point. It's something to think about. I don't know how they would do that. Maybe a tax. I mean, this tax money on the city water goes to fund drip irrigation on farms. But anyway, something to think about. Oh, and you have one more thing?
I'll make it real quick. On the 27th, I attended the LAWMA meeting, and I don't know if it had been, I had reported this from the prior meeting, not this last Wednesday, but when Director Benson retired, I was automatically thrust into the chairmanship. So I'm the chair of the LAWMA board right now. It was a very routine meeting. A couple of quick items I just wanted to mention. The quarterly report of operations, that everything was running well and our expenses were under the budget. The status of the NPDES permit renewal is moving rather very smoothly. Chuck seems to have a relationship with people there at the board, so that seems to be moving along well. That's all I have. And Maddie was there as well.
Anybody? Okay, if there's no other board member items, we'll move on to item 11, which is a closed session. Let's see, public employee appointment. This has to do with the general manager. At this time, the board will be going into a closed session for the matter described under agenda item 11. The broadcast will be stopped at this time, since we anticipate no report out of the closed session. But if there is a report on a closed session, you can contact the district secretary during regular business hours for that information. So at this time, we'll move into closed session.
Judy.